text number 12, yes? 13. Text 13. So, Canto 2, Chapter 3, text 13. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamotirayat. Okay, so 2, 3, 13. Shaunaka Uvacha Ati Abhivyartam Raja Nishamya Bharatarshabaha Kim Anyat Prashtavan Bhuyo Vayaksam Rishim Kavim Shaunaka Uvacha Iti Abhyahritam Raja Nishamya Bharatarshabaha Kim Anyat Prishtavan Bhoyo Vaya Saktim Rishim Kavim. Shaunaka said, the son of Vyasadeva, Srila Shukadeva Goswami, was highly learned sage and was able to describe things in a poetic manner. What did Maharaj Pariksit again inquire from him after hearing all that he said? Purport. A pure devotee of the Lord automatically develops all godly qualities, and some of the prominent features of those qualities are as follows. He is kind, peaceful, truthful, equitable, faultless, magnanimous, mild, clean, non-possessive, a well-wisher to all, satisfied, surrendered to Krishna, without hankering, simple, fixed, self-controlled, a balanced eater, sane, mannerly, prideless, grave, sympathetic, friendly, poetic, expert, and silent. Out of these 26 prominent features of a devotee, as described by Krishna Das Kaviraj in his Chaitanya Charitamrita, the qualification of being poetic is especially mentioned herein in relation to Shukadeva Goswami. Krishna Krishna. The presentation of Srimad Bhagavatam by his recitation is the highest poetic contribution. He was a self-realized learned sage. In other words, he was a poet amongst the sages. And we're going to also, because it's a short purport, we'll go to text 14. Etachu satam vidvan sutano nor hasi bhasitum kata hari kato darka satam syu sadasi dhruvam etach tru shutatam vidvan sutano harsi bhashitam kata hari kato darkaha satam syu sadasi dhruvam Oh, learned Sutta Goswami, please continue to explain such topics to us because we're all eager to hear. Besides that, topics which result in the discussion of the Lord Hari should certainly be discussed in the assembly of devotees. And purport by Srila Prabhupada. As we have already quoted from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Rupa Goswami, even mundane things, if dovetailed in the service of the Lord, Sri Krishna, are accepted as transcendental. For example, the epic or the histories of Ramayana and Mahabharata, which are specifically recommended for the less intelligent classes, women, Shudras, and unworthy sons of the higher castes, are also accepted as Vedic literature because they are compiled in connection with the activities of the Lord. Mahabharata is accepted as the fifth division of the Vedas after its first four divisions, namely Samayajur, Rig, and Atharva. The less intelligent do not accept Mahabharata as part of the Vedas, but the great sages and authorities accept it as the fifth division of the Vedas. The Bhagavad Gita is also part of the Mahabharata, and it is full of the Lord's instruction for the less intelligent class of men. Some less intelligent men say that Bhagavad Gita is not meant for householders, but such foolish men forget that Bhagavad Gita was explained to Arjuna, a grahasta, family man, and spoken by the Lord in his role as a grahasta. So Bhagavad Gita, although containing the high philosophy of Vedic wisdom, is for the beginners and postgraduates in the transcendental science. Therefore, literatures like Mahabharata, the Puranas, and similar other literatures, which are full of the pastimes of the Lord, are all transcendental literatures, and they should be discussed with full confidence in the Society of Great Devotees. Paragraph. The difficulty is that such literatures, when discussed by professional men, appear to be mundane literature, like histories or epics, because there are so many historical facts and figures. It is said here, therefore, that such literature should be discussed in the assembly of devotees. Unless they are discussed by devotees, such literatures cannot be relished by the higher class of men. So the conclusion is that the Lord is not impersonal in the ultimate issue. He is the Supreme Person, and he has his different activities. Got a mind of its own. No. What's the procedure to make it not spin? That's shortening it. How do you, that's okay. Hare Krishna. Oh. That was it? Okay. Such literatures should be discussed in the assembly of devotees. Unless they are discussed by devotees, such literatures cannot be relished by the higher class of men. So the conclusion is that the Lord is not impersonal in the ultimate issue. He is the Supreme Person, and he has his different activities. He is the leader of all living entities, and he descends at his will and by his personal energy to reclaim the fallen souls. Thus, he plays exactly like the social, political, or religious leaders, because such roles ultimately culminate in the discussion of topics of the Lord. All such preliminary topics are also transcendental. That is the way of spiritualizing the civic activities of human society. Men have inclinations for studying history and many other mundane literatures, stories, fiction, dramas, magazines, newspapers, etc. So let them be dovetailed with the transcendental service of the Lord, and all of them will turn to the topics relished by all devotees. The propaganda that the Lord is impersonal, that he has no activity, and that he is a dumb stone without any name and form, has encouraged people to become godless, faithless, demons. And the more they deviate from the transcendental activities of the Lord, the more they become accustomed to mundane activities that only clear their path to hell instead of return them back home, back to Godhead. There's a footnote. Srimad Bhagavatam begins from the history of the Pandavas with no necessary politics and social activities. Yet, the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said to be the Paramahansa Samhita, or the Vedic literature meant for the topmost transcendentalist, and it describes Param Jnanam, the highest transcendental knowledge. Pure devotees of the Lord are all Paramahansas, and they are like the swans who know the art of sucking milk out of a mixture of milk and water. Paramahansas. So the conversation here is between Suta and Shaunaka. Because Suta heard Srimad Bhagavatam, the sages of Naimisharanya want him to address them because they were planning something else. They were planning a big yajna, and instead of the big yajna, when they saw Suta, they wanted Suta to explain many things, and that's the context of Shaunaka and Suta. So the sages, headed by Shaunaka, are addressing Suta, and they're asking him to describe further. Please continue to explain such topics to us, because we're eager to hear. No, these are sages. These are transcendental sages. At least they're on the path of spiritual perfection in the personal feature. So emphasis is going here in the purport to the personal feature, or the superiority of the personal feature compared to the misunderstanding of the Brahman feature. That's all in all. So the Brahman feature is without variegatedness, and the personal feature is filled with variegatedness. So Shaunaka understands that Suta Goswami understands the personal feature, and they want to hear from him the personal feature. It's not on a form, but also activities and his messages, and the narration. The main point is these are all transcendental. Transcendentalists are not interested in mundane. To go the other direction. Mundane people are very interested in the mundane. They're not interested in the transcendental. And therefore, when they read Bhagavad Gita and or Srimad Bhagavatam, A or B. They're not interested because it's transcendental, or they interpret it in their own way. And thus, that which is transcendental becomes not transcendental by their interpretation. And there's a reciprocation with their interest, that is, they get some conviction that's impersonal from something that's personal. It's distorted and disturbed. The sages, on the other hand, here, these are not worldly people. They understand that the features of the Supreme are as transcendental as he is. Although he accepts or manifests a form as if born and stays for some time and does what living entities with material bodies do, and then eventually disappears or is annihilated, Krishna's body is not created nor annihilated, nor is it in between, is it material. And therefore, with that understanding, the sages, they want Sutta, the qualified speaker, that they describe him as vastly learned. And he is. The Sutta is the son of Romaharshan. And Romaharshan is a direct disciple of Srila Vyasadeva. And when Srila Vyasadeva divided the Vedas into 4, he also made number 5. Number 5 being I'll just read. The less intelligent do not accept Mahabharata as part of the Vedas, but the great sages and authorities accept it as the 5th division of the Vedas. So the 4 Vedas are celebrated. It's 4. And then there's the 5th Veda. And at least learned persons understand the 5th Veda is as Vedic as the first 4. Although the style is very different and the intended audience is very different, the essence is the same, and it's from the same compiler of the Vedas. The way it's described nicely in Tattva Sandarbha is when Vyasadeva was dividing the Vedas into 4, there were some remaining verses that are from the original Veda, or teachings or verses, and then he compiled those in a systematic way to provide the Smriti portion of the Vedic text, that is, the explanation of the Shrutis. So we understand, and others have a different understanding. We understand the Shrutis are as Vedic as the Smritis are as Vedic as the Shrutis. That is, the history portion, the Puranas and Itihasas, the history portion, are as Vedic as the original 4, or they're part of the original 1 before being divided into now 5. So it's a principle, and then the application of the principle is being expressed here. The sages are addressing Sutta. Please go on narrating. We're very eager to hear. And such topics should be discussed in the association of devotees. Go back to text 13. Here is the Shaunaka is the speaker, and he's saying, I'll repeat the verse, the son of Vyasadeva, Srila Shukadeva Goswami, was a highly learned sage and was able to describe things in a poetic manner. So emphasis from the writings of Chaitanya Charitamrita or Krishnadas Kaviraj there are 26 characteristics of a devotee. Poetic is one of them. And those who become devotees become qualified in each of these 26. It's a fantastic list. I guess one could measure how well we're doing in our practice of sadhana bhakti and see all of these different qualifications. How much is there a match with our qualification? Of course, a devotee is going to be humble and say, no, I don't have these qualities, because of that primary quality of humility. And they don't go to the other extreme saying, well, I have 25 and I just need one more, or something like that, and then I'm full. So self-evaluation may not be best, but we'll see through the lens of Krishnadas Kaviraj's writings, these 26 qualities are manifest in the body of a devotee, or the personality of a devotee, and poetic is one. So Kavi is learned. Kavi Karnapur, or Krishnadas Kaviraj. Kavi, very learned, but also poetic. And a learned person that's not poetic, it's hard. How does the learned person explain things that are beyond the audience capacity to understand? By poetic imagery. Yeah, the sunlight's right in my eyes. I can see the sunlight, but I can't see anything else. You have a curtain?
Yes.
Ah. What to do? No, it's the other one. It's the other one. The one to the right. Yeah, that's the one. Ah. Okay. I'll carry on. The qualification of being poetic is especially mentioned herein in relation to Shukadeva Goswami. The presentation of Srimad Bhagavatam by his recitation is the highest poetic contribution. He was a self-realized learned sage. In other words, he was a poet amongst the sages. The qualification is he's not only learned, but he's a devotee. So there are learned persons that aren't devotees. And thus they're not really learned, they're semi-learned, but heading in the direction of being learned, but not really learned, because really learned has this additional qualification. That's the point that's being made. Poetic. Same idea. How to describe that which is beyond our senses to a person who is able to perceive only within the purview of their senses. And even that is in a distorted or disturbed way. It's not perfect knowledge. The sage with imperfect knowledge, or the sage with the knowledge of the absolute truth, can be understood by their being within the purview of past, present, future knowledge. So, Sutta has that capacity. The sages are eager. And they're requesting him continue. And the fruit of that continuing, of course, is same for us. That which we have forgotten, we can remember, or the potential is there. to remember that which we have forgotten. In other words, remembering Krishna and then remembering everything in relation to Krishna. That is, our position, the spiritual world, the spiritual activities, becoming again awake to all these things by proper sound vibration. And that's Srimad Bhagavatam, recorded sound vibration, indicating the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead. So these sages, Shaunaka, they're very capable persons, and they're asking the right individual. Their interests are the same. That is, the sages prior, they were interested in diminishing the negative influence of the age of Kali by yajna. And now it's not just diminishing negative influences, it's awakening transcendental knowledge. Awakening of transcendental knowledge directly by hearing transcendental knowledge from the right source. So they're actually very capable and learned sages. Naturally so. The combination is fantastic. So we should become like them. Inquire from the qualified Shukadeva Goswami and be eager to hear the response of Shukadeva Goswami so that the darkness of ignorance can be dispelled just by that hearing process. It's very fortunate. Okay. Any discussion? Yeah.
Bhagavad Gita, it was mentioned, Bhagavad Gita is a summary of Vedas. I have read in Bhagavad Gita, it's saying Bhagavad Gita is a summary of Vedas.
I'm listening.
But here, Prabhupada is in the purport.
He wants to give you the microphone. You want to take it?
Sure. In Srimad Bhagavatam, text 14 purport, Prabhupada is mentioning Bhagavad Gita is also part of the Mahabharata and is full of Lord's instructions for the less intelligent class of men. So I'm confused here.
Why are you confused? What's the contradiction or confusion?
Why Prabhupada is saying Bhagavad Gita is for less intelligent men?
So what? There's persons, more intelligent persons. That is, more intelligent may be able to understand the four Vedas or the Upanishads that are corollaries of the four Vedas. They may be able to understand them, and a less intelligent person may not. Although they're as Vedic as the fifth Veda, so the less intelligent can understand the four through the fifth Veda, because it's commentary or direct expansion of, and in language and the skills that are accessible to the less intelligent. No contradiction. Maybe you can repeat specifically, what's the contradiction that you see?
Bhagavad Gita mentioned Bhagavad Gita is summary of the Vedas. It's
Okay,
like,
but summary is for less intelligent people. Okay, like here's a graduate or postdoc study, and then the summary can be in the undergraduate or graduate, as opposed to the PhD program or the postdoc. But the principles don't change, just the detail and the way of elucidation is different. So supposing I'm this less intelligent person and I'm reading Bhagavad Gita, and it's a summary. It makes it simple. The essential principles are narrated. Not embellished to the degree that the postgraduate student will understand. I won't understand because I'm less intelligent, so I can't go to that. But for those that are qualified, they can go and they see it's the same. It's okay? Okay. Okay. Well, that's it. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.